Dear history enthusiasts, we are very happy, very excited. Why? Because what we have been waiting for a long time has happened. The bath where Hürrem Sultan also bathed is now open to visitors. Now we will see it. Please follow me. Look, this is the courtyard of the concubines. This place known as the courtyard of the concubines. Until yesterday, there was a barrier in the area you see here. Because of this barrier, we couldn't enter here. It was indeed a narrow space. We couldn't speak comfortably either. I thank the authorities very much. The barrier was removed, and look, this place is now spacious. It has now become a place where we can discuss those most special topics. First, let me explain this place to you. In other words, the fact that the concubines' courtyard is now open to visitors makes us happy. What did we say? In the Topkapi Palace Harem, there were 4 types of women living. The Valide Sultan, the Sultan's mother, the Sultan's wives, the Kalfa and masters, and also the unmarried young girls. In other words, we mentioned the concubines. Now look, I have named this place the Crossroads. Why the Crossroads? One path comes from the Black Courtyard. One path goes from here towards the Golden Road. One path goes to the courtyard of the Sultan's mother, the Valid Sultan courtyard. And one path goes to the place you are most curious about, the concubines' courtyard. Dear history enthusiasts, we are very excited. Look, this good news was given to us exactly 1 year ago. The Topkapi Palace administration said they would open 9 new places for visits. They have opened 5 of these 9 places. 4 of them were postponed. Our excitement was left hanging. I was also asking from time to time, when will it open? They said they would open it after Ramadan. I hadn't been to the palace for 3 weeks. As soon as we entered today, we learned this good news. Hürrem Sultan's bath has been opened for visits. When we say Hürrem Sultan's bath, it's not a bath belonging to Hürrem Sultan. It is the bath of the concubines, the courtyard, and the Haseki courtyard. There are 4 types of women living in the harem. 1, the mother of the Sultan. There is only 1 of her, not 2. Sultana. 2, the Sultan's wives. There are, of course, more than 1 of them. 3, Kalfas and masters. That is, those who manage the harem and provide training to the concubines. And the educators who give them status and qualifications. Women who ensure discipline, the Kavas and masters, and 4 unmarried young girls. That is the concubines. When we talk about concubines, please let's not confuse our minds with what the Orientalists have been saying for centuries. The stories told from afar, with prejudice and hostility. These are from those who are either enemies of the Ottomans or simply do not know the Ottomans. He is blind because he does not know. And the harem is a place where secrets are kept. A place where secrets are kept. In the world of women, keeping secrets. It's the same today. Women go out together and everything is discussed. They criticize their husbands harshly. In the evening, they return as if nothing happened. They come back clean and happy because they have let go of all their troubles. I know this from my wife, you see. I say, you go out stressed and come back as light as a bird. And she says, you wouldn't understand. Eventually, we figure this out. It's the same in the harem. They talk about everything, but they never tell their husbands outside. In fact, it's right that they don't. In short, the harem is such a place. The world of women, there are 4 types of women. These young unmarried girls were accepted, educated, and trained based solely on their quality, merit, and ability, regardless of their race, color, language, or religion. And they were married to young men studying in the Enderan based on compatibility and equality. Did some of these girls say, I don't want to get married? They did, I don't want to. They would say, and they would stay here for years as a senior apprentice. They would reach the age of 40, 50. Then they would say, well, I want to get married now. Let's say a pasha of her age became a widower in Istanbul. She would be married to him. In other words, she would be sent to the countryside. I don't want a girl to marry someone from Enderan while she is graduating. She could say, I want to marry someone from outside Enderan. So they had such rights and rules. Of course, when a prince was to get married, since the highest quality girls were here, candidates were chosen from here. It's like whether you felt a spark or not, you met and talked at the patisserie. There was no such thing as falling in love. The parents would see, find it suitable, and they would get married. So, don't think of it like today's life and Hürrem Sultan was one of these girls. Today, some say Hürrem Sultan was Russian, some say Ukrainian, and others have different opinions. We don't know any of these for sure. The only thing we know is one truth. Hürrem Sultan was brought from Crimea, Suleiman the Magnificent. Who was Yavuz's wife? Hafsa Sultan. Who was Hafsa Sultan? She was the daughter of Mengli Giray, the Crimean Khan. When the son, whom Mengli Giray's daughter was to marry, reached the age of marriage, where did Prince Suleiman bring the girl from? He brought her from his own maiden palace. There is an absurd saying in Anatolia. Those who have a daughter to marry off say, let her be from our village, even if she's our dog. I mean, I know from my own experience, my mother tried very hard to marry me off to a relative. When her face is seen outside, that's the issue. But she couldn't succeed. That's a different matter. Everyone marries someone they find themselves. She chooses the girl. For her son, she already looks for a bride for herself. She doesn't look for a wife for her son, but someone I can get along with, someone compatible. The same applies to the groom. And Hürrem Sultan was brought from Crimea. Maybe a Crimean Tatar, we don't know. Months ago, a Crimean Tatar mother and daughter joined my tour. Bright blonde hair, both with striking blue eyes. I asked, who are you? They said, we are Crimean Tatars. The whole group took photos with them. I said, anyone who wants to see Hürrem Sultan should look at them. Second Selim had bright blonde beards from Hürrem Sultan's hair. So we don't know for sure. Even if we knew, it doesn't matter at all. We are not concerned with what her ethnicity was. This woman was brought here. She was educated and raised. She was initially a concubine, but she was of high status. She was of very high quality. She came here after being selected from the Crimean palace. Here she immediately demonstrated her quality. And she became one of the girls who would marry the prince. And indeed, as the second wife, she married after Mahidevran Gulbahar Hatun with Suleiman the Magnificent. And after getting married, look, there is a rule. The rule of concubines. What does concubines mean? It means slave women. Now, for example, you might ask me, Islam allows up to 4 marriages. How does this happen? Look, it's not very easy to understand this in today's conditions. The Quran says a single spouse who is pure for you, single. The allowance up to 4 is for necessary situations. For example, not from this 50, 100, 300 years ago. Here, an army of 200,000 people. There, an army of 200,000 people. They would clash with each other. In one day, 100,000 men from each side would die. And in one day, 100,000 women from each side, totaling 200,000 women, would become widows. Today, we have ladies among us. Women are both having children and building careers. They can do it. Could they do this? Not 300 years ago, but 50 years ago. Impossible. These are difficult tasks. Life was harder for women, especially for a woman. 50 years ago. How difficult it was. That's why there was something called the story of protection. Marriage up to 4 was considered for necessary situations. I was considered for necessary situations, F contracted. You might say, you mention up to 4, but these sultans, by God, have taken 8 to 10, 15. How does this work? Now, these women married under the law of slave women, as I explained to you at length earlier. What is the law of slave women? Here, she has fallen into a bad path. They are in a position like today's woman, whom not everyone would easily want to marry or see as a spouse. But what is at the core of Islam? There is saving the person. Saving the person. Today, a person who has a son to marry off in the spirit of Islam, there is saving the person. In whatever condition and circumstance. Well, today we have a son to marry off. The child goes, loves a woman who has taken a bad path, and I will marry her. Well, which of us would say yes? No one would say yes. We would say, she is not suitable for you. She does not suit you. We say, let someone else save her. However, in history, there is a situation called slave women. And these women also want to be saved, to have a husband, to have a home. They want to have children. Islam sir, it says that more than 4 marriages can be made with women in this situation. And in this way, these women can be saved. Is this marriage without a contract? No, it is not. There is a marriage called the slave woman marriage. This is called istifrash marriage. Hürrem Sultan was a woman who married through istifrash marriage. Well, marry a free woman. Marry a slave woman. No, there is no such situation. If you marry slave women, you cannot marry a free woman on top of that. If you marry a free woman, You cannot marry a slave woman on top of that. The courtyard we have come to with you is being opened for the first time for visitors in the Harem of Topkapi Palace. Look, this courtyard is being opened for visitors for the first time in the history of Turkey. So this is what we see. What is this courtyard? It is the courtyard of the concubines and the hasekis. Hasekis, what does haseki mean? The Sultan married a slave woman, and this slave woman became pregnant, and she gave birth to a baby. What does this woman become the moment she gives birth? She becomes a haseki. What was Hürrem Sultan's title? Haseki, Hasekiul Ram, meaning the moment her child is born, Islam. According to the law, the woman becomes a free woman immediately. A free woman, this is very important, and the lives of these women are saved. We mentioned that there can be up to 4 marriages. For example, a sultan can have 4 hasekis at the same time. Where do these hasekis stay? Let me show you right away. Look, the first room is the one we see here. The sultan's 4 hasekis. The first is this room we see here. The second room is this room we see here. Look, this room you see here. The second room. The third room. Let me move over here. This room we see here. The third room. The fourth room is that room over there. So the Sultan's 4th consort used to stay in these rooms. You see, the restoration of these rooms is also ongoing. Once completed, hopefully, these areas will be opened for visits. So, what is this place? Hopefully, the palace will open this area soon as well for visits. They announced this good news last year. In the history of Topkapi Palace, look, we see it from here like this. Wow! This is a very special staircase in the history of Topkapi Palace. Among the people of the palace, it is known as the 40 steps, but it actually has 53 steps. 40 steps. They will open this place. Underneath here, there is a place where the restoration has been completed. The hospital of the Harem, a world belonging to the women of the Harem. Women's illnesses are different. Their health is different. They have different doctors. That's why there is a fully equipped women's hospital here. And even behind the hospital, there is a mortuary room. In the 1970s, our teacher, who was involved in the restoration there, told us that in the room I mentioned, he could still smell the scent of death. Like a morgue. The bodies of women who passed away there were washed, and the restoration of the Harem hospital there is complete. Hopefully it will open. We are waiting. So we have now entered the Harem courtyard. Since this is the courtyard of the Hasekis, it was for unmarried young girls. Look, you go down from here. There is also a descent from here. There. In Melin Kalfa's engraving, there were 3-story units, like these wooden ones. But below, they are still in need of restoration. Even when they are restored, they may not be open to the public, because everything is wooden. Since it's wooden, it's not possible to climb on it. Maybe they will show it from a distance, which is something I really hope for. Well, I will ask you a question. Did Hürrem Sultan become a Valide Sultan or not? There is a door behind you. Let's show what's behind that door right away. Look, there's a door there. Behind that door is the Valide Sultan's quarters. Did she become a Valide Sultan or not? She did not remain. Did that Valide Sultan's quarters ever remain or not? Not stay. It did not remain. It did not remain. Why? Because her husband died first. If you want to become a Valide Sultan, first you must marry a Sultan. Second, you must outlive the man. In other words, you must live longer than the man. Then third, it's not over yet. You must also see that your child becomes a Sultan. You must witness it. If you don't, you cannot become a Valide Sultan. Oh, Hürrem Sultan, poor thing. She died in 1558, 8 years before her husband. That's why she did not become a Valide Sultan. In fact, Hürrem Sultan is often portrayed as an extremely powerful character, a shrewd woman who interferes in the state's internal affairs. I don't believe any of this. Why? A woman whose husband died while she was alive. We all have them in our family line. Grandmothers who have experienced power intoxication, they cause their husbands to die early. In other words, the men die early. These women live very long. They reach 70 or 80 and experience power intoxication. I can see you all looking at each other and laughing now because you all have descendants from them. These are power intoxications. These aunts are relentless and they interfere in everything. Hürrem Sultan died while her husband was still alive. If you want to hear from me about a woman with power intoxication, I'll tell you. Slive Sultan. Her husband first, Mehmet, died at the age of 28, and this woman lived for many years. The reign of her co-wife's son, young Osman, in the palace. Her own son fourth, Murad's period in the palace. During the reign of her own son, Sultan Ibrahim, in the palace. Grandson, fourth, Mehmet ascends to the throne. The woman is a grandmother. Just go. Already go. You will now go to the old palace. Now this grandson has a mother. This one will be the Valide Sultan. She says, I'm not leaving, I'm still here. Well, if you insist that much. The curtain's rope, that is, there's nothing to be done. I don't believe it, but fourth, it is said that grandson Sultan Mehmet made plans related to her. Related to her? What is the most dangerous being in this world? A woman with a child. A mother, that is. Well, Harish granddaughter Sultan isn't just sitting idly by. If slave Sultan makes plans related to the granddaughter, she will be executed by being strangled with the curtain. Ropes in the room we are about to enter. Hürrem Sultan. Because of this, everyone will know to get up from the seat. In other words, she didn't get up. She stayed for many years, experiencing the autumn of her life after her husband. Hürrem Sultan doesn't have such a situation. A woman who died while her husband was still alive. If this woman is a Haseki and she stayed in one of these 4 rooms in the Haseki, look, I can tell you this clearly. Where did Hürrem Sultan live in Topkapi? One of these 4 rooms, either she stayed in this room, or she stayed in this room, or she stayed in this room, or she stayed in this room. So we have a 25% chance of guessing, that's all I can say. Well, where did a woman who performed the 5 daily prayers take her ablution? Right behind you, she took it here. The place you see right here, Hürrem Sultan took her ablution here. We are always focusing on Hürrem Sultan here. Not just Hürrem Sultan. Her daughter-in-law, Nurbanu Sultan. Her daughter-in-law, Handan Sultan. Concubine Sultan. So these were also people who prayed and took their ablution. They took their ablution here. So, where did they bathe? Normally inside the mother-in-law's. Well, the Valide Sultan also has a bath. Since she was never a Valid Sultan, she never bathed in the Valid Sultan's bath. She bathed in the Haseki bath. Where did Hürrem Sultan bathe? Follow me. The bath, the one where she bathed, has been opened to visitors for the first time. Please, we are entering. Yes, look here. We will soon enter the bath of the Valide Sultan. Compared to the Valide Sultan's bath, this is a much more modest bath. What is the section we are entering right now? The cold section, cold, warm and hot sections. Look, there is a stove here. In the cold section, a stove is lit during the winter months so they don't get cold. Normally we don't see an open stove like this inside the bath. We see a stove in the furnace room behind the bath. Fire furnace. But interestingly, there is also a stove in the cold section here. Actually, this shows that the quality of this bath is lower. You will see the Valide Sultan's bath shortly. It is a much more business-like bath compared to this one. Having seen the Haseki baths, let's also see the Valide Sultan's bath. Together with you? Of course, it is much more ultra compared to the Haseki baths. Luxury. Normally, compared to many spa bath facilities we use today, it is very modest. The Sultan's mother used to stay here. The Valide Sultan bath. In this pool you see. For example, there is no such pool in the Haseki baths. There is no such bathtub. She would soak off her dirt here, inside the cage. The scrubbing is done, man. The scrubbing is done inside the cage. Only 2 very trusted people enter, others cannot. The door is closed and locked. Why? Because during the scrubbing, you are vulnerable, you turn your back, and you can't tell what people are doing behind you. Someone could stab you. If they touch you with a poisoned needle, you're done for. That's why this cage system is definitely present in the baths of the Sultan and the Queen Mother. We see them here. We immediately move back to the warm section. Look closely, there is this warm section. This is the cold section. Like this, we see the cold section. This is also the Queen Mother's toilet. We see these. Let's move on like this to the warm section. Of course, while passing the bath, The bath has magnificent items used inside. Look, these are details you can't easily see everywhere. For example, you see Madame Montague, the wife of the British ambassador, was entering the bath. She was a woman, and because she was a woman, she could see the private world of Muslim Turkish women. For example, in the Ottoman era, women wore quite high clogs in the bath. Okay, these were used, the edges were also with bells. These would be with bells, they would make noise. Why high? So that the dirty water on the bath floor wouldn't touch their feet. In fact, Madame Montague said, I don't understand how they walk on top of these. She said, the Turkish woman is a very clean woman. She said, when you go to their house or mansion, it smells wonderfully of soap. She said, I have never seen a woman who smells of sweat, because they wash themselves instantly in the ablution cabinets. Besides that, they sweat it out in the baths once a week. Today, do we really wash in the bathrooms of our homes? For God's sake, you pour the shampoo, splash water from above. You take 2 showers. This is not washing at all. Washing means removing toxins from the skin. How was this done? This was done through sweating. It was done by shedding dirt, sweating, and scrubbing. And these women here did it perfectly. Look, Ottoman women loved long hair. They didn't want to look like men. For example, do you remember your grandmothers? I remember she passed away when I was 10 years old. My grandmother was over 90 years old. She had 40 thin braids on her head. Look, the old women used to braid their hair finely and long. Why? Because when you braid hair, dirt doesn't get inside it. In the bath, women would first undo each other's braids carefully. Everyone helps each other. Then they wash, soap, and scrub. Before leaving the bath, they braid each other's hair finely and long. My grandmother was over 90 years old. She had 40 braids on her head. In other words, she would definitely have them braided and undone. Because that hair braid would stay on the head for a week, even 15 days. Since no dust could get inside, the hair would never get dirty. Loose hair gets dirty. Braided hair never gets dirty. This is a very important tradition. The bath bowls they used were enchanted with talismans. These are incense burners, perfumes, and mirrors. Indispensable. Look, here we see the magnificent embroidered mirrors used in the harem of that day, adorned with Kufic script and Quranic verses related to cleanliness. Let's go inside. Let's move to the warm section. Look, this is the warm section. And here is the toilet. You know, sometimes when a person is bathing, they might feel the need to relieve themselves. And when they do, there's a traditional Turkish toilet. Look, perhaps this toilet you see was used by Hürrem Sultan. Meanwhile, the ewers, used in baths, perforated bowls, incense burners, bath bowls, and peshtimals. We call it a peshtimal. Towels came later. This is called a peshtimal, bath peshtimals. And also sherbets. When the heat became overwhelming, chilled sherbet offerings were also available. They have created very beautiful reenactments here. Look, these are Lebanese miniatures, surname miniatures. They made a model bath in Sultanahmet Square. A model bath was made. It's an amazing thing. You can see it, and the bath is being moved on wheels. And look, the bath is being moved. They have made a reenactment. They have animated the miniatures. Look at Sultanahmet Square. The obelisk is in the middle. The walled obelisk is on the left. Ibrahim Pasha Palace is in the background. People are watching the parade from the viewing terraces of Ibrahim Pasha Palace. And what is on the back of the horse? There are logs. Logs to be burned in the bath. These details are visible here. And the hot room section. This area is very narrow. A strip has been placed here. We can't enter the hot room section, but let's show it from here even if we can't enter. They used to sit at the heads of these basins. They had stools. Hot water came from one tap and cold water from another. And they would bathe here. So the room where Hürrem Sultan stayed, the fountain where she performed ablution and where she bathed, the bath is now open for visitors. In their honor, we urgently invite you to the Harem of Topkapi Palace, in the person of Hürrem Sultan, to see with your own eyes the environment in which the palace women and the concubines who gave birth lived for centuries. Greetings from the Harem of Topkapi Palace.